I honestly, all of my banter ideas were just about how fucking hot it is outside.
It is deeply, deeply horrible. I texted you earlier with a screenshot of the weather app in my location where I think the temperature was something like 83 and the heat index was 105. And I was asking you for the pros and cons of moving to the Arctic Circle.
Well, and here's the thing. Because I did very much consider trying to do a master's degree at the Arctic University in Tromsø, which is up north of the Arctic Circle at the northern end of Norway. And because I have attended some lectures there when I was in an undergrad course on Arctic ecology, I have actually thought about this extensively.
And I knew that, and that is why I asked. Because at least then that would be a reprieve, and I could imagine life in the Arctic Circle for a minute while you told me about it.
Yeah, I mean, pros, Northern Lights, depending on where in the Arctic you are, the mountains are fucking gorgeous. At least up in that northern part of Norway, it's so pretty. Like, the wildlife is very, very cool. Downsides. Everything is expensive. No matter where in the Arctic you are, everything is expensive. Getting shit there is hard. It is cold a lot of the time. Like, very, very cold a lot of the time. And I know you and I are cold beasts, but it might even be too much for us.
Mm-hmm.
Midnight sun / polar night, depending on your feelings about those things. Feel like a little bit either way, you go a little insane by the middle. And no trees.
I do like trees. I like them quite a lot.
Yeah, no, trees are important. So, like, there are positives and there are negatives. I really liked the Arctic. I thought it was a very, very cool place to travel, and I would love to go back. I don't know if living there is a great plan. That said, Montreal?
Yeah. If they'll have us, which according to our Canadian lawyer friends, they totally won't. During a period where the spheres of terror and ability to think through and make decisions, during a time when those briefly overlapped, we talked with our lovely, lovely friends who are lawyers in Montreal and said, okay, contingency plan. If we need to just fuck off and leave the country, how feasible would it be? What would be the steps to become permanent residents in Canada? And their answer was basically, I mean, you can always come sleep on our couch, but the Canadian government is not going to want you. You're not going to be able to get jobs here. Which I appreciated their frankness, but they were like, listen, it's not going to happen. It was like, that makes a lot of sense. There are ways, and hopefully it won't come to that, but something else that's very nice that is completely unrelated is I have found one of the few good websites on the internet, and I will send it in our podcast chat. For our listeners, it is random.ricky.baby, and I will let Rin click it to see what this website has in store.
I saw it in book club.
And it is just a picture of someone's orange and white cat. His name is Ricky, and the website has one button. The button is another Ricky, please. And you click on it, and then you will get another picture of Ricky. I found this from a Tumblr blog that is dedicated to this cat, and the post had about 32 notes when I saw it earlier, and I would love for this person to just see an uptick in views on this website when this episode comes out.
Oh my god. It'd be a minor uptick because we don't have that many listeners, but
I think all of them would like to see a picture of Ricky. He is fat. He has a little orange spot on his snoot, like he stuck his face into a bowl of Kraft mac and cheese. He seems delightful. You can see him sniffing an orb. If you get really lucky, I just saw one. There's a little blue orb in a person's hand. He's giving it a little sniff.
He's pondering the orb.
Yeah.
Ricky, get away from the Palantir.
Oh no!
Fool of a Ricky.
Honestly, I feel like you could pass Ricky off as a Hobbit name. You would need a good Hobbit last name, but I think Ricky could work.
Rickard Took. Anyway, I'm already feeling the temperature increase in this room, so let's get started. and welcome back to another episode of The Fandom Apprentice. My name is Rin. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a lifelong nerd. I grew up with various sci-fi and fantasy books read to me by my parents, movies and TV shows as part of my life. And I've carried that love for fantasy and sci-fi into my adult life and into how I interact with the world, including
I wasn't trying to derail you. I was just putting a note in for later so I could remember to tell you that I saw a coyote puppy.
It's just because your notes are directly in front of my face.
That's not my fault.
No, that's not.
It was really cute.
Fuck, where was I? I like to inflict pieces of media that I experience on my friends, mostly so I have people to yell about them to. The media,
Yeah.
not my friends. Friend.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm the other one. I am also a lifelong nerd of many varieties, and I'm just along for the ride. Rin sends stuff my way, and then I consume it. And on a completely unrelated note, I saw a coyote puppy earlier on the way home, and it was really cute.
Adorable.
I thought it was someone's dog that had gotten loose, and then I saw it and was like, oh my god, no, that's not a dog. There's a pack of them around
It's
here.
not a dog. It's yeah, you see it from a distance, it's like, oh, cute puppy. And then you get close, it's like, oh, that's not a dog.
No, but it was baby.
They can still be baby. Last season, we spent a large amount of time going through Lord of the Rings, which was a story that had a profound effect on me as a child, and Sam experienced with me for the very first time. And for this season, we are returning to a series that I discovered in 2020 and then promptly yelled at all of my friends about until someone read it with me. And now it has fundamentally changed how we speak and interact with each other.
It's been impactful, like the impact of a Solarpunk crashing down upon you.
That series is the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. We've had several episodes so far. You can look just a little bit below this episode in our feed. We are currently on the fifth novella in the series. It was published in 2021 after the novel Network Effect, but chronologically takes place before that novel, which is why we've placed it here in our reading order. And yeah, let's hit the summary.
Yeah, for context for our listeners, we are recording this while slowly being lowered into a pit of lava. It is 100 degrees outside, and we have to turn our air conditioners off to record, so we are being efficient today. It does not help that the plot for this one took kind of a bit of puzzling out, so the summary's a little longer, but we'll just get right into it. We'll do our best. So, there's been a murder on Preservation Station, which is not typical.
It's not Murderbot's fault, and it's very quick to tell us this.
Yes, I know that its name is Murderbot, and so that would be sensible to deduce. But no, unrelated. We don't know who the victim is, and station security is not prepared to deal with it. Shockingly, a commune of space hippies doesn't really deal with a lot of cold-blooded murders. The scene has been tampered with. Mensa suggests that Murderbot work with station security to improve their chilly rapport and maybe also pave the way for a security consultant job in the future. We get some flashbacks / context about how Murderbot has been received on Preservation and learn that Mensa is avoiding / postponing getting therapy to deal with the trauma caused by the last book. Murderbot is aware of this, and she is bribing it not to press the issue. Murderbot is also helping Bharadwaj with her documentary about constructs, which is also serving as its own sneaky therapy for Murderbot, which Murderbot kind of knows but is also ignoring. There's a lot of feelings. It's also been helping Rathi with data analysis and hanging out and going to shows with him. But jumping back to the murder, Murderbot talks to a free bot at the hostel where the victim was staying, and we find a lead. Our victim was a person named Lutran. Murderbot checks out ships that he might have come in on and finds a weird one that seems to be sending coded messages for help. So Murderbot assembles the dream team of Rathi and Garathan, who are the ones who are available. And they find the scene of the actual crime. 2 station officers get trapped / held hostage on, I was not clear if this was the same ship or a different sketchy ship.
It's a different sketchy ship.
Okay, the Lalo is a different ship. Okay, cool.
Yes.
And Murderbot has to break its no hacking rule to save them, because one of the conditions of it staying on Preservation Station is it can't just go around hacking everything, which seems fair. But station security is able to arrest the crew who are acting suspicious, and the crew's story breaks down pretty fast. Turns out they are part of a group smuggling people out of corporate slavery, and station security assures them that it is not illegal to be or help refugees. Lutran was their contact on the station, and now the clock is ticking to figure out where these refugees are that he was supposed to help. Turns out they are in a cargo module attached to a ship, which is not designed to hold human beings for any length of time. And the moment that the bad guys figure out that there's a rescue mission, they will kill them all. Everything on the station is potentially compromised by someone with legitimate access. So the crew sets up a secret headquarters in Mensa's office, and the only way to get the refugees out is to use a literal antique piece of safety equipment, which we will talk about.
I love it so much.
There's a big fight. It seems like everything should be over, but something is still wrong. Plot twist! One of the seemingly innocuous bots that's been there the whole time is there being on the station is actually a combat bot. It's complicated. Other bots come to the rescue. Balin, the evil question mark, the bot in question recognizes defeat and shuts itself down, and station security offers Murderbot an olive branch of more potential work.
And a hard currency card.
And a hard currency card. Yeah, that's Murderbot doesn't want your fucking olives. Give it hard currency cards.
It can't eat olive oil. There's no point.
That's fair. So this is a big one. This is a beefy one. So where do you want to start, bestie?
Oh my god. I don't have like things in any particular order. I love the murder mystery. I love that we have continued to tell different types of stories via Murderbot. I love that we've told, horror stories. I love that we've had heists. I love that we've had, combos of them. I love that we've had, like backstory grappling with trauma, and we have a fucking Agatha Christie style locked room murder mystery here.
Mm-hmm.
There was a review I was reading from, I think it's NPR Books, that describes this as a locked room murder mystery, even though like the room is Preservation Station.
Mm-hmm.
No one can get out or come into Preservation Station. All of your suspects are there. All of your, potential evidence, potential escape routes are there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a classic locked room murder mystery, which is just so much fun. But then you have the difficulty, you're sort of like bumbling investigators who are, doing everything by the book. And then you have your detective, Murderbot in this case, who's noticing all the little patterns that the investigators don't, and putting them together in ways that the investigators can't, because it's outside of the normal functioning of the station, to finally solve the mystery. I had another point to that. I don't know what it was. It was another point.
That's all right. I have an unrelated thing, which in the very beginning, when they discover the body, we open on Murderbot and station security all trying to figure out what's going on with this fucking corpse. And they're trying to get a response from station medical to come and collect the body and examine it and do whatever you do when there's a dead body. Oh my God. And station medical is saying, well, it's not an emergency. I'm doing preventative healthcare day at the school, so this can wait. And then there's all of this back and forth about them trying to convince this medical bot that actually, no, it is an emergency. Please come right now. And them going, well, the person's already dead. And it's very funny, and they eventually work it out. And this is not at all the lesson that Martha Wells wants us to take away. But as someone who is interested in death, it is true, and it is a interesting piece of death positivity to think about the idea that a dead body is not an emergency. Just in general, when we're thinking about our own relationship with mortality, if you are with a loved one, in a peaceful place and they pass in a way that is expected and they've died, then they're dead. There's no emergency. There's nothing that can be done anymore. You can take a second to process what has happened. You can get your thoughts together. You can call who you need to call. You can deal with it. Once a person dies, it doesn't mean that everything suddenly has to like be on fire and now I need to go be taken advantage of by evil giant corporations who own all of the funeral homes, even though they retain their own branding. So it seems like they're independent. I could talk about that all day. But just the concept of a dead body not being an emergency does have a completely unrelated, legitimate thing. And I thought that was very funny.
That is fun. I've remembered my other point, which was
Mhm.
not really related to the nature of the murder mystery, but we've been exploring different genres that can be incorporated into a sci-fi setting.
Mhm.
And I think we've mentioned a couple of times before that Murderbot is operating in a different genre than everyone around it.
Mhm.
And I feel like this is happening again here. Murderbot exists within a sci-fi universe that is like it's in a cyberpunk world. You know, cyberpunk heavy corporate, Cyberpunk 2077, Blade Runner, Snow Crash, Altered Carbon, like that's the world it exists in.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, preservation is like we're over here in our fully automated luxury space communism solarpunk world.
There's a line from the beginning that I love where it's talking about how unusual it is to find a dead body and how it's basically impossible to get yourself killed on preservation. I guess if you were really determined, you could find a way to get yourself killed by exposing the power connectors under the panels and shielding and, I don't know, licking them or something. But this dead human clearly hadn't. The full station threat assessment for murder was sitting at a baseline 7%. To make it drop lower than that, we'd have to be on an uninhabited planet.
I was reminded really strongly of The Mimicking of Known Successes by Malka Older reading this.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder a little bit if that's just because that is also a sci-fi murder mystery. Oh, that one's much more Holmesian.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other piece of that perhaps that linked in my brain was that like we're not dealing with like the cops here.
Yeah.
Station security like aren't cops.
No, they just make sure that there's no hazardous material that's improperly secured and that people are submitting their paperwork on time. This is not a punitive force.
This is not a punitive society.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Mimicking of Known Successes, the investigators aren't cops either. They show up to investigate issues, and that seems like it can be like, and I think also in this, like I don't know whether it's in this or it's in one of the short stories where it mentions like station. It's the special investigator that gets called up by station security
Mm-hmm.
is also involved in like investigating relationship disputes.
Yes, that's in this one.
And like that's just so funny and so ridiculous to me that like yes, this person's job is to investigate things, and that can be murder or that can be did you eat my casserole.
Which, oh my god, it did not even occur to me to put these pieces together until just now. But in this society where, as we have said many times, non-monogamy is the norm, the number and types of relationship disputes, I think it's nice that preservation government provides some helpful counseling and mediators because they're going to need it.
They truly are. Speaking of queer normative society, we have a non-binary character, Tech Tural.
Yes, we love Tural.
Tural is just trying to do their goddamn job, please and thank you. And also, occasionally, they want to talk about the science really in depth. Mm-hmm. And Inda is like, no, let me argue with Sec Unit. And also, fuck off and go away, please.
Tural's like, if you could just stop your stupid slap fighting with Sec Unit for half a second, maybe we could do our jobs.
And meanwhile, Sec Unit and Inda are over there waving at each other like
like a pool noodle fight.
Like rabbits boxing. How,
Mhm.
like, that actually is serious, but it looks so goddamn stupid.
Yeah. Just in general, we get so much about preservation society in
Mm-hmm.
this book, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing all of the characters at home in their element. Mensa, especially, despite the fact that she is avoiding therapy and has some feelings that she needs to process eventually, she's just in her element and not giving a single fuck.
I love her so much. And I love her even more after having read that short story that we read.
There's a line after a big frustrating meeting where Mensa is so over it. She's calling her partners and telling them that they should take all the kids, siblings, their kids, and assorted relatives and move to a shack in the terraforming sector on an unsettled continent and start working in soil reclamation, whatever that was. Like, she's just so frustrated by these pointless meetings that she's like, that's it, I quit. I don't want to be the planetary leader anymore. We're working in soil reclamation now. Pack it up.
We're moving to the middle of nowhere to fucking Little House on the Prairie this, except, without the imperialism.
She's trying to parent teenagers while all of this is happening, getting comm messages from her kids about another kid stealing all of the squash dumplings.
I fucking love, too, that, like, this is the kind of society where, like, yeah, you're respectful of your parents' job, I guess, but also, like, she's your mom. Doesn't matter
Mhm.
that she's the fucking president. I'm gonna yell at her because you stole my squash dumplings.
Yeah. But also, the not giving any fucks translates into her viciously defending Sec Unit, which we
Mm-hmm.
love to
Mm-hmm.
see, and advocating for it in so many different ways.
I think I struggle to decide whether or not Mensa is putting herself in a mother role with Sec Unit or in like a caring friend role.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's a really good segue into let's talk about bot rights.
Yes, spot rights.
Because we learn and the personalities of bots.
Mhm.
We can intuit from the way preservation law and practice seems to be that there are no other constructs in preservation,
Mhm.
right? There's no comfort units, there's no other sec units, like there's no other bot human construct.
Mhm.
So you have, quote unquote free bots and humans. And we sort of have established and continue to establish through this book that that bots don't necessarily have the exact same self ability to self-determine their actions that like
Mhm.
constructs and humans do. And bot rights and preservation are that bots are full citizens, but they have to have a guardian,
Mhm.
which sec unit always translates to owner.
Yeah.
And throughout this, I feel like watching humans interact with bots, it's pretty constantly like a really smart pet interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's,
think that that's exactly right.
and I was like, thinking about how would we react in a situation where there's other sentients who can communicate and interact with us and with each other, are capable of language and reasoning and theory of mind and self-determination, but the way they act and the way they perceive the world is not quite exactly like ours. Maybe not quite to the level that we typically see for ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, or we see it as lower than us because it's different.
Yeah, we can't
You know,
perceive the fullness of what they're experiencing.
right? How does our perception of this situation change because we created them?
Mhm.
Are they pets? Are they full citizens or not? We meet a couple of bots by name. We meet Tellus, the hotel staff. We meet Jolly Baby, who is a holler bot for Port Authority. What's Jolly Baby's role?
It is a cargo bot.
Cargo bot. And then Balin, uh, who works for Port Authority and is some type of security for Port Authority and is aka the combat bot, aka the murderer. And then we have a bunch of unnamed bots who work in the port.
Mhm.
And the unnamed bots who end up targeting Balin when Balin goes full combat bot at the end are, they want to protect humans who it seems like they see as family.
Mhm.
Neither, and Jolly Baby seems to have some sort of sense of humor. So does Tellus. But Balin then is sort of helpless to its programming, as were the combat bots we saw back on the terraforming station in book 3.
Mhm.
To what extent are these other bots enslaved to their programming? They supposedly choose their own jobs and they choose their own names, but like, can a Hollarbot go and work medical? Does a Hollarbot want to go and work medical? Is that something that ever happens?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
The other piece that I pulled out was when we first meet Tellus. Murderbot
Mhm.
has a moment of being like, who the fuck is Tellus? And then goes, oh, Tellus was the pet bot's name. They name themselves, and hearing about it is exhausting. Murderbot, baby cakes. You named yourself.
As people say that the things that we dislike in others are the things we dislike about ourselves. Maybe we have some issues with identity. I have a little section from when it confronted the fact that there was a bot named Jolly Baby. It's saying, oh my god, you have to be fucking shitting me. Its name is not Jolly Baby. And this is a huge cargo bot. This is not a cutesy bootsy
A
Jolly Baby.
three-story tall.
Yeah. Jolly Baby broadcast to the feed ID equals Jolly Baby. The other cargo bots and everything in the bay with a processing capability larger than a drone all immediately pinged it back and added amusement sigils like it was a stupid private joke. I said, you have to be shitting me. I already wanted to walk out an airlock and this didn't help. The only thing worse than humans infantilizing bots was bots infantilizing themselves. Babe, I think you may be projecting a little teeny bit, Murderbot. I don't know if Jolly Baby feels the same way about that you do.
Does Jolly Baby have the capability to feel that way? We still haven't really established the level of, is it interoception is sense of self?
I know interoception, I think of it as perceiving your own physical body, like stuff like hunger and temperature and things. I don't know if that also applies to,
The
but you know what
mind
we're talking
version.
about, listeners.
Yeah, the mind version of interoception. Like, do they have that level of self-sense? Can they determine that? We know things like Mickey perhaps have higher levels of processing power, but like Jolly Baby, Tellus, the other like hauler bots around the port, like how do they perceive it? Can they perceive themselves? And then yeah, I guess if they don't necessarily have the processing power to really perceive themselves, how does humans essentially treating them as children constantly by saying like, yes, you're a citizen, you have the rights of a citizen, but also you need somebody to take care of you and make decisions for you. How does that influence how the bots interact?
And also, if I was more prepared, I could go on a tirade about the fact that children don't have the rights of full citizens. At least
No.
in the United States, they have no fucking rights. You can, and I think that there's a very similar tension there. Like, you could be the most loving, most educated, most woke, gentle parent ever in the world, and you still inherently have so much power legally over your kid that they can do nothing about. You can compel them to do so many things that there is just no recourse for, because we just chalk so many things up to, well, that's your prerogative as a parent. And I think that then also applies to anybody who needs a higher level of care than what our society expects individualistic, able-bodied, neurotypical people to be able to do for themselves. People taking someone needing help or needing care as proof that they are not able to handle having rights.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There is the other piece that gives us, I guess, a hint into bot, I guess, sentience, is that Balin was apparently the only bot ever to request on its own refugee status in Preservation Alliance.
Yeah.
All other bots that have ever come from Outsystem have come with a human. And a piece of that we learn is because Balin didn't actually do that on its own. That was part of its programming by a now defunct corporate polity to plant it on preservation in case of future need.
And we get some insight from Jolly Baby, actually, where Murderbot is trying to figure out what's going on. And Jolly Baby says, Balin off network. Intruder destroyed Balin. So we're trying to figure out, was there a second bot consciousness? Was there a second set of programming that overtook the nice Balin that everyone knew? No, there's not. It was all just one Balin all along. But, like, would Balin have been happy to continue just working for the Port Authority if that other programming had never kicked in? Like, it's complex.
Well, it was the other programming kicked in, but it also sounded like Brehar Walhan, the evil corporate in this one, obtained like codes for it.
Yeah.
And was able to activate it. And so it sort of had this, deep cover, hidden combat bot ability that it kept secret for its mission. It's a little... Are you familiar with the Illegals program?
I am not. I don't think so.
It was during the Cold War. The Soviets, and also supposedly the Americans too, implanted agents, deep cover agents into... but the confirmed ones, the Soviets, who implanted deep cover agents into the States, who like would arrive here, under deep cover at like from a different European nation, or they'd create, fully American identities, get married, settle down, have kids, get a job, go about their days until they got some sort of command from the KGB. Hey, we need you to do X thing. Hey, we need you to do Y. Take care of this. That is the plot of the show The Americans. It's a fictionalized version of that, obviously, and it wasn't. And when the Soviet Union fell, some of them stayed. Some of them continued to work for the FSB, and some of them just stayed. I think the Foreign Russian Service is the GRU. Maybe. Doesn't matter particularly. They worked for whatever inherited the KGB's mantle. And some of them just faded into American society. Just stayed and kept living their created lives. I think it was in either the late 90s or the early 2000s. The FBI busted a ring of them that like hadn't been actively involved in espionage in 20 years. But, could still be charged under espionage laws. But like they'd just gone dormant. They were ex-KGB spies living lives in the US. And the Soviet Union was gone. They never expected to do any more work for that. And also never expected to go home.
Damn.
And reading this, I was like, oh, that's what Balin was doing.
Yeah.
And yet, then there's the bot piece of all this. When Balin knows it's defeated, there's no like remorse. There's no like, I was right. There's no fight its way out and try to cause maximum damage. It's, I've completed my mission. I'm good. I'm shutting down now. What the fuck?
Yeah, I did love that there was no big blowout robot battle, because that's what we've come to expect after this many books, is there's going to be a big giant climactic fight. And we still get a big giant fight in this one because it's Murderbot. But when you have just bots dealing with each other, there's not that emotional need for vengeance or maximum destruction. Like you said, there is the, welp, I am outnumbered. You have figured me out. My cover is blown. Time to shut down, everybody. It's been good.
Also, still on the subject of bots a bit, but shifting gears.
Gears, because they're robots.
I want to talk about the very gender feelings about how SecUnit is received by station security and the requirements imposed on it.
Yes.
Station security has two requirements for Murderbot. It cannot hack any systems, and it has to identify itself in the feed as a sec unit.
Mhm.
It has feelings about being forced to out itself in the feed. Because
Mhm.
that's what's happening. It's being forced to
Yeah.
out itself. It doesn't want to be seen as a human, but knows that if humans see that it's a sec unit, they will think of it as a bot, as a mindless murder bot.
Mhm.
Which highlights this again, this bot human binary, and putting itself actively in the middle and identifying itself that way means it knows the humans find that different and weird and scary. They don't know what to make of it, which is a very non-binary moment there.
Yeah.
That's a very... I have an X identifier on my government paperwork for that. The one, my passport has an X on it. My driver's license has an X on it. I cannot do that for Social Security. I cannot do that for my other passport that I have for the country I have dual citizenship for. I can't do that on other forms. And is that perfect? That's, I have weird feelings about that. On the one hand, I like having that option. I like being able to say, no, I'm not a man. I'm not a woman. Leave me the fuck alone. And on the other hand, I am actively saying to the government, yes, I am trans.
Mhm.
I don't love that.
Yeah, I
you
can
know,
see that being an issue.
I'm actively handing to every border officer I ever meet, yeah, here I'm a fucking... It's complicated. Like, yeah, no, on the one hand, if I had the choice, I would not be perceived as a gender. On the other hand, there isn't really a choice to do that. The choice to do that is actively putting myself in a position where a lot of people either won't understand or will be actively hostile about it.
Mhm.
If I ever get pulled over by a cop, I have to hand them my license. I don't fucking know what that, I know that they're a cop, so I know they're a bastard by default, but like, I don't
Mhm.
know what that cop's politics are. Probably not good, because again, cop.
Yeah.
But like, it's a weird situation to be in.
Yeah.
Also sort of telling it, you must have a name, you must have an identifier, you must be able to be seen in a way that makes sense to us.
Mhm.
We don't understand the way that you are, so you must make yourself palatable to us.
Yeah.
We could talk a lot about queer assimilation
We
and
could.
the two cis white gay men with a white picket fence living next door to the straight couple, and they go to their jobs and are and other than the fact that they're gay, they're utterly indistinguishable from every other American on the block. And then there's the radical queers, with their spiky hair, and they stand out and they're different.
Mhm.
And they wear their kink gear to Pride, and they
Gasp.
and they're proudly polyamorous, and they're they have funky names like River and Frog and Leaf, and
Leaf was going to be the first one on my list. Yeah. We love you, Leafs. If you're a Leaf out there, we love you.
honestly amazing. I have also used the noun name at various points and in various circles. They have new pronouns that don't make grammatical sense. Yeah, it's all the like, you must make yourself palatable to fit in. You must make yourself palatable to be accepted. We can't fight for trans rights now. That's too far.
Mhm.
We have to allow people to slowly adjust to gay people. Then we can talk about trans rights. We have to allow people to adjust that you're a free thinking bot. Then we can talk about, you getting to hide.
And luckily for Murderbot, it is not facing all of these issues alone, because Pinley smells blood the moment that it is suggested that Murderbot has to do this. It sends her a message in the feed saying, make a legal thing so I don't have to do that. And then Pinley is just the equivalent of frantically typing. And then she just goes, everyone who has a feed ID has one voluntarily. Consensually, one might say. And she is just assembling documents to get Senior Inda removed from office for violating Murderbot's human rights. Saying like, oh, absolutely, we are not forcing this issue, my friend. You have just stepped in it big time.
I'm a member of the construct community, and this is my friend Pin Lee. She's an ally. Talk, Pin Lee.
Ally.
Talk, Pin Lee. I'm going to get you removed from office, you motherfucker. Anything else on bots? Because I have a sharp topic change. Bots and constructs.
The only other thing to put a button on this is part of Murderbot's musing about what feed identifier it will choose. It does, like the name Rin. Shout out to the name Rin. Great name.
Fuck yeah. Spelled differently, but yes.
You know, saying, I could use it, and the humans on the station wouldn't have to think about what I was. A construct made of cloned human tissue, augments anxiety, depression, and unfocused rage. A killing machine for whichever humans rented me, until I made a mistake and got my brain destroyed by my governor module. I posted a feed ID with the name Sec Unit. Gender equals not applicable, and no other information. There's a lot of wrestling.
I mean, I do love its... No, I also do love its, like, yeah, no, fuck you, I'll comply, but I'm doing the bare fucking minimum.
Mm-hmm. Also, last little bit on this, and then we'll move on. Just thinking about Murderbot expressing itself and identity. It's mad that there's not enough good shopping on Preservation. It really liked the little corporate clothing kiosk where you could pick out clothes and customize them with whatever little pattern you want it. And I was going, ew, it's all these humans and there are handmade textiles. This is stupid. There's not enough good fashion here. I love that. And also that Murderbot's preferred fashion is a hoodie and joggers. I'm sure Preservation can hook you up with some of those.
I'm 100% positive on that one.
But now we can pivot.
Cool. Let's talk about Lutran and the Refugee Underground Railroad.
Yeah. Where do you want to start with that?
Oh, I think let's start with Lutran and the smugglers from Weybrogatan.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're part of the same network. It's described as a compartmentalized network. Somebody picks up the refugees from Brehar Walhan from the asteroid field, transports them to Weybrogatan, hands them off to this other group, which transports them somewhere else, where they're picked up by Lutran, who transports them somewhere else. It's not confirmed whether or not there's also an additional step or not in there. You know, Lutran might also have additional steps.
And these people are not like the ones that we saw back in, I think it's Artificial Condition, when Murderbot's playing security consultant on the ship for all the people who are shipping off to contract. So these are not like those people who had signed their lives away to the corporation under duress. These people were born into corporate slavery. There is generations of this horrible human exploitation happening, just in case you thought it couldn't get worse. And there is also a throwaway line towards the end about one of the humans having an infection because he ripped a corporate interface out of his forehead. So they also have
tracked.
They also have implants and augments against their will.
Yeah. I also like the little bit about the auto translator being in play. And there's like a couple of points where the auto translator doesn't get things quite right. Mm-hmm. And there's like one time or more where, you know, Murderbot comments on it. And then there's a couple other times where Murderbot doesn't comment on it. But you can tell Martha Wells is kind of joking around with like, the auto translator is pulling a Google Translate here. It's doing a literal translation, but not capturing like the vernacular. Whereas other times it's definitely getting the vernacular and we're not really sure. But there's the one line that I picked up on was, I know, penis move, right?
So good.
It was like, we meant to say dick move, but like...
Very good. Penis move, I sure hope it does. And
But like just in one axis of direction, I guess.
it can't have to move on. To be very serious now, Lutran is dead. And so now, we get this batch of people to safety, but he had been working for years across multiple different stations and systems. And so, presumably, because of their sort of cell structure of this organization, there will be someone else to fill that role. But what about all of the other people who might have been at an earlier stage of the pipeline who Lutran was going to get next, but now their contact isn't there anymore? How is this going to affect the broader network? Hopefully not too much, because that's how cell structures are designed to work. But I worry that, we have this one person who is doing incredible work, but is still just a drop in the bucket of this atrocious galaxies wide system.
There's also, on the one hand, that there's the sort of isolation of the pieces of the cell, but also they are so isolated that they don't even really know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this when station security picks up the smugglers from Weybroga, because the smugglers like take a couple of station security hostage, which is what ultimately leads Murderbot to hack into their ship, break in, and absolutely wreck shop without killing any of them.
Mm-hmm.
They like it speaks to the isolation and the paranoia that they're dealing with, like whether or not they were passing through preservation just this once or they were passing through preservation this whole time. Preservation would have helped them. Preservation is a safe place. It's a non-corporate polity. It's clearly more than one wormhole jump away from Brehar Walhan. Maybe they see it as not enough, but like, even if the refugees don't want to stay on preservation, it's been mentioned in the past that like preservation will help people get elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who don't want to stay on preservation do not have to stay on preservation, and if you need help going elsewhere, they will help you get there. So like, they had reached a safe spot, and yet they were still so siloed that they were sure that they weren't safe. They were sure they were fucking screwed the moment that their cover was blown.
There's a good line where the smugglers are being questioned. Station security is reading them their rights. It was a lot of rights. I was pretty sure it was more rights than a human who hadn't been detained by station security had in the Corporation Rim.
Luxury space communism.
Mm-hmm.
Our little Solarpunk utopia here in the sky. Speaking of preservation, and thinking about the origins of preservation on the colony ship that had escaped from a corporate polity and declined to work with the Corporation Rim, let's talk about safety equipment, safety and rights in ancient preservation station.
So, one of the many things that we learn about preservation culture is it's kind of obsessed with itself. There's a lot, in like a nice way, I guess, but there's a lot of informational displays about the history of preservation and beautiful projections of plants that you may see on the surface, plants that you should please and thank you not touch. But, it's just all kinds of helpful things and historical documentaries that people are constantly trying to force you to watch. So much preserved history, including ancient, before there were evac suits, there were life tender bags. And a life tender is just a big old bag that you climb in and hope for the best. You hope that it'll get you out of your failing ship and to maybe somewhere else.
Yeah, it's got like a rudimentary propulsion system and it carries like 6 people at once
And that's it. And we love this fucking bag. Murderbot develops a close bond with the bag. It goes from, oh god, I have to use this stupid bag because it can't be tracked, and so it'll keep the Brehar Wallhand guys from finding it. And there's all kinds of reasons we have to use the bag. And it's just going, oh, this is so stupid, I have to get in the bag. But then going from that to cheering for this bag. It's, you can do it. Blorp your way along the hull of the ship, bag. I was emotionally invested in the bag.
Then the bag bumped. It wasn't really a bump. It was more like a blorp into something solid and stopped. I checked navigation and holy shit, we're here. And just the word blorp then gets used. The bag's sensor system was primitive, but it knew it had blurped itself up against the curving hull of a ship.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it did.
I got the bag to blorp along the hull over to where the module should be. My bag, blorping quietly to itself on the access hatch, was starting to look really friendly in comparison. And finally, the last mention of blorping was, I checked my input for the life tender. It had reached the colony ship's hull and was blorping along towards the airlock.
Yeah, it was. We love you. I think that if this bag could name itself like Jolly Baby, it would name itself Blorpy. That's how I've referred to it in my notes. We love Blorpy. We love you so much. I was so excited because I was talking to Miles about reading Fugitive Telemetry, and they were going, oh, that's the one with the refugees, right? And then that reminded me, this is the one with the bag. And I got so excited.
Yeah, I was thinking as we were reading through some of the others, I was like, where does the blorpy bag come in? Because that has stuck in my brain since I first read it.
Mm-hmm.
I have one final fun moment from this book, small little fun moment from this book.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have anything else to go over, my notes are exhausted, much like Murderbot after hearing about all these robots' names.
I mean, you should be the one to say this because it was your thought, but that Murderbot doesn't say anything about not liking Garothan in this book. And just like the very sweet shenanigans of Garothan like standing in front of security cameras so Murderbot can get into mischief. I have a note that just says general sassing Inda. Fuck Inda. Yeah, I think just in general, it's fun to see everyone at home and relaxed. Pinley going off to take intoxicants with her friend humans. Murderbot going to shows with Rothy. It's great.
Yeah, I love that we don't know what sort of intoxicants they are.
I love that it's not because it could be literally anything. I am sure that all kinds of drugs are legal on preservation, although there's probably excellent education about them, so they're not abused.
Yeah, I'm sure there's incredible education and safe injection sites and, treatment programs if people want that. And yeah, I'm sure that there is so much safety around drug use in preservation.
But like she could be having a beer with her friends or she could be like smoking opium. Like, I don't know.
Pinley is way up in the sky with diamonds.
And honestly, good for her.
I have a note from Art, which was, I just finished the book and I love preservation.
Yeah.
From earlier this week was just a message that I sent to you. And my final thing, speaking of loving preservation, I love that there is just a food stand on Preservation Station called Starchy Foods! 3 exclamation points.
Starchy Foods!
Like, Murderbot fully mentioned, that's what it says in Preservation Standard Nomenclature, Starchy Foods! 3 exclamation points.
I would go to Starchy Foods. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else needed. I'm a fan of Starchy Foods.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? I know that the standard comparison is potatoes, pasta, rice, but these are not equivalent comparisons.
Tell me more.
Pasta is one form of processing wheat into something edible, right? Like, you can use wheat and wheat flour to form so many fucking other things, and being like, it's like saying fries, pasta, rice cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like picking one version of something, not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I feel like perhaps, we've made wheat pretty versatile, I guess, particularly in like how we process wheat flour.
Where's fucking corn on this list?
That fucking too.
Where's corn? Show me the corn. Show me the
Mostly,
nutritionally complex ancient varieties of corn.
I was gonna say, it's mostly in probably some sort of like oil or syrup format in actually a surprising amount of things.
Mm-hmm.
In honestly, actually, a really concerning amount of things from our vast corn monocultures.
The cornporation rim.
I tragically do not have enough knowledge of the subject to really dive into corn and its effect on the American economy and American farms. I believe there's a John Oliver bit about it.
I'm nodding sagely, listeners.
Hang on, I need to confirm whether this is true. John Oliver.
While you confirm, I will answer your question and say that love is abundant and every starchy food is unique. I would never choose one starch above another.
We are, hang on,
Okay.
relation starch anarchists?
We'll workshop it.
Star relation chart, star
Not relation chart. That's what happens if you have too much of the starch. Too much fiber.
particularly if you're gluten intolerant. There is a Last Week Tonight with John Oliver corn bit. Discuss the financial and environmental impact of corn in the US. So I adore John Oliver's little bits. They're wonderful starting points for things I didn't even know were a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you want to know more about corn, you can watch John Oliver's bit that's on YouTube.
And I'll loop it back to Murderbot real quick and then we can take it out.
Yeah.
I am realizing now, as we're talking so much about corn and starchy foods, this book
Starchy
has
foods.
Sorry, starchy foods.
So that's what
like
Kevin R. Free pronounces that, yeah.
Yeah, we need a soundboard button for starchy foods, that in treasure. Anyway, in this book, Murderbot is observing and commenting on a lot of specific foods that the humans are eating in ways that it has not cared about in all of the other ones. In All Systems Red, it just mentions something offhandedly about food packets. And then later we get food packets and hot liquids. But now we know that people are eating squash dumplings and they're drinking tea. And there's starting to be just a little bit, even though it can't eat and drink, just a little bit more interest in recording what specifically people are eating and just as general marker of its interest in human culture and caring about its friends. I think that's sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the interest in human culture, and yet the still desire to I don't need to necessarily be a part of that.
Yeah, that's good for you. Murderbot is the good for her gift. Good for her.
Well, and the only ones who really seem to get that about it are the survey team.
Mm-hmm.
But Bard Watch is trying to change that with her documentary. And I've got nothing else. So if you like what you're hearing, please leave us a rating and or a review, depending on the podcast platform you're listening on. If you can do both, please do both. We'd really appreciate it. It helps the podcast reach new ears. It gets us random emails from LA publicists.
Very cool. We did not take them up on that kind offer because it wasn't a good fit, but still wild. Yeah, so those numbers, that it actually does make a difference and is really cool.
Yeah. And if you are an LA publicist, or if you are anyone else, any one of our other listeners, and you would like to contact us about something, you would like to comment on something we said in the episode, you want to propose an interlude episode for us to do, you have more opinions,
Have recipes for starchy foods,
you have more commentary on Murderbot and gender and the non-binary feelings of having to label yourself to the government and to everyone who sees your identification, you can hit us up in the feed, aka on any of our social media, at FanAppPod on any and all of our social media. We're pretty active on Tumblr. We're reasonably active on Instagram. And good luck with the others. You can send us an email at thefandomapprentice@gmail.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. I feel like I need to leave a pause in there, but you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you are currently listening. And hopefully you will come back in 2 weeks to hear us with our next episode for more Murderbot. Murderbot. Mordorbot it sounds...
Yeah.
I know.
It sounds.
It,
And with that, listeners, we will jump just at the last second away from the pit of lava that we've been lowered into this entire recording, back into the safety of our air conditioning. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll see you next time.
The Phantom Apprentice is produced and edited by Rin and Sam. Our music is composed and performed by James. You can find more of his work on Spotify and Bandcamp under Beiruz, Baeruz. Our art is by Casey Turgeon. You can find more of her work at KCT Designs on Instagram. The content discussed is the property of the original copyright holders and is used here under fair use. Murderbot, aka Sauron.